Centralized data governance of a distributed data landscape class is a new class. It's really different in terms of data governance. It really addresses way beyond what traditional data governance classes initially did, which was focused primarily on data quality. This class is way different. The reason it's different is because many businesses today are operating with an increasingly distributed computing environment. They're operating on multiple clouds, they're operating on premises, they're operating on the edge. And so they've got data in all of those places, as well as data coming in from external providers, got data streaming in from IoT devices as well. I got data sitting in software as a service applications. So the landscape that they're dealing with is it's increasingly getting spread out. It's inside and outside the firewall, and it's incredibly complicated to govern and know where your data is even. So this class really tackles this problem and says, okay, we need to govern this whole distributed data estate now that our data is not just sitting on our own computing resources inside our enterprise. It's sitting in multiple different kinds of data store inside and outside. So this broadens the whole area of data governance to cover data quality, of course, data access security, data privacy, data usage, data retention, and data sharing, and looks at how do you govern this across the entire distributed data estate so that you can manage this from a common place, even if multiple people around the enterprise are helping to set the policies to govern your data, but you can manage it from a common place and allow you to govern the data across that distributed data estate. This is a detailed class that looks at what's needed to be able to do this. Exactly how do you organize yourself? What are the people involved? What are the processes involved? What are the policies and the technologies? And what kind of capabilities do you need for two things? One is to understand your data landscape, your data estate, to know what's out there. And then secondly, what are the capabilities you need to govern it? And then what are the key tasks involved in doing that? We're going to look at business glossaries. We're going to look at data catalogs. We're going to look at automatic data discovery. We're going to look at mapping of physical data names discovered to business terms in a business glossary. We're going to look at automatic data classification and how data classification works using machine learning built into software. We're going to look at things like data observability and data lineage. And in addition to that, we'll then look at, okay, how do I then use some of these key technologies like data catalog, data fabric, to be able to govern individual disciplines? Like, how do you govern data access security? How do you govern data privacy across a distributed data landscape? What about data loss prevention? What about data sharing? How do you govern those? How do you set policies to be able to govern those? And where should they be set and who sets them? I mean, is that IT does that? Is it that data owners do that? Does legal department do that? Or is it a combination of these things? Going to look at how that takes place, where those policies are defined, and how do you then enforce those policies across that distributed data estate, given that there are multiple technologies out there and multiple barriers in our way. For example, lack of metadata standards to share metadata across technologies. So this is a massive challenge for most organizations, not only to just remain compliant with increasing amounts of legislation and regulation, things like GDPR, of course, California Consumer Privacy Act for global businesses operating outside the EU. You've got other legal jurisdictions that you have to comply with. So this is an enormous challenge for almost every organization and really breaks down the data governance challenge and looks at each of the major disciplines and what's needed to get it under control and be able to successfully implement data governance end to end, uh, from understanding to fully governing your environment across a distributed data estate, including structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data.